If you're working in AI, you're probably used to that one-on-one chat with a model. It's you and the machine. But what if you could scale that up? I mean, really scale it up. Today, we're going to talk about how to build and command an entire team of AI agents that work together to solve problems. This whole breakdown is based on the incredible work of AI expert Yashika Jain, who's really laid out a practical roadmap for this. So let's just pause on that for a second. What if, for your next project, you could spin up a whole crew of AI assistants? One for the front end, one for the back end, another one just for writing tests, and they all work at the same time, in parallel. Well, that's not science fiction anymore. It's the whole idea behind agent teams, and it's something we can actually start using right now. So here's our game plan. First, we'll break down how these AI squads are even structured. Then, we'll talk about when it actually makes sense to use them. After that, I'll walk you through the setup. Don't worry, it's pretty easy. Then we'll get to the fun stuff. 2 really powerful examples of these teams in action. And finally, we'll zoom out and talk about what this means for the future of how we work. Okay, first things first. Before we can command a team, we've got to understand how it's organized. The best way to think about it is just like a real-world project team, but, running as a bunch of coordinated computer processes. The whole structure is actually super intuitive. You've got your team lead. This is basically the project manager, the main process that figures out what needs to be done. It creates a shared task list. Think of it like a Trello board. Then you have the teammates. These are totally separate AI instances that go to that list, grab a task, and get to work in parallel. And how do they talk to each other? Through the mailbox. It's just a simple messaging system so they can pass notes back and forth without getting in each other's way. It's a classic setup, really. So now we get the architecture, but when should we actually use this? Agent teams are incredibly powerful for sure, but they're not the right tool for every single job. So let's talk about the sweet spot. Agent teams absolutely crush tasks that you can break apart and work on at the same time. For example, having different agents work on the front end, the back end, and the tests for an app all at once. That's a perfect use case. It's also a total game changer for debugging. Imagine you have 3 theories about a bug. You can just assign an agent to each one and let them all investigate in parallel. It just speeds everything up so much. Yashika Jain really boils it down to 2 simple ideas. Use agent teams when you need different perspectives on one problem, or when you have a bunch of different tasks you can do at the same time. That's it. It's a really elegant way to think about it. All right, enough theory. Let's get our hands dirty. In this next part, I'm going to walk you through how to actually turn this feature on. And honestly, it's way easier than you might think. Okay, quick heads up. This is still a very experimental feature. You got to think of it as being in beta. Because of that, it's turned off by default, and we have to manually enable a feature flag to get it working. The whole setup is just 3 basic steps. First, obviously, you need to have the Claude dev environment installed on your machine. Second, you have to make sure you're using the Opus 4.6 model, because that's the one that supports this. And then you just run 3 little commands in your terminal. That's it. The first command is just a simple mkdir. All we're doing here is creating the directory where the Claude tool is going to look for any custom settings we want to give it. Super standard stuff. Okay, command number 2. This looks a little fancy, but all we're doing is using Echo to write a tiny bit of JSON into a file called settings.json. And that JSON is the feature flag itself. We're just telling it, hey, turn agent_teams on. And the last command is just to make sure we didn't mess anything up. You just cat the file to print its contents to the screen. If you see the right text, you are good to go. All right, setup is done. Now for the really fun part. Let's see what these teams can actually do. For our first example, we're going to do a deep dive security analysis on a made-up AI agent called OpenClaw. Now, the real magic here is in the prompt. Look how specific it is. We're telling the team lead to create a team with 4 very distinct roles. You've got a security analyst, a consultant, a skeptic playing devil's advocate, and a strategist. This is how you delegate effectively. You define the mission for each agent right from the start. And check this out. This is the table that Agent 4, the strategist, came up with. Because its job was so narrowly focused, it produced this incredibly clear and useful output. This is the power of specialization, right? You get these really actionable results, like a clear line between using a tool for a hobby project versus a high-stakes production system. Then the team lead takes the reports from all the different agents and pulls them together into one final verdict. And notice how it balances the good and the bad. It acknowledges the innovation, but it also highlights the alarming security issues that the analyst found. This synthesis step is so critical. It turns all that parallel work into a single smart analysis.
Okay, that security analysis was awesome for a one-off task. But what if you have a process you want to run over and over again? Well, our next example shows you how to bundle up an entire agent team's workflow into a reusable skill. So for this one, the job is to write a LinkedIn post. The prompt creates a 5-agent content pipeline. You have a researcher, a first draft writer, a specialist to match your personal writing style, a critic to find weak spots, and even a growth hacker to make it go viral. It's like a whole automated content team in a single prompt. Now, this is the really mind-blowing part. Once you've got this multi-agent workflow just right, you can just tell the AI to save it. You literally ask it to save the whole process as a skill that just needs one piece of information, the topic. You're basically creating your own custom function out of a complex prompt using plain English. So now, with our new skill, we can just feed it a complex idea, like this amazing quote. The 5-agent team automatically takes that raw data and runs it through the whole assembly line: research, drafting, critiquing, optimizing, and out comes a polished LinkedIn post. The quality of that final post is a direct result of having all those specialized agents working together. Okay, so let's just zoom out for a minute and really think about the implications here. This isn't just another cool feature. This is pointing to a massive shift in how we're going to build and interact with software. Let's just recap what we did. We designed and fully automated a complex, multi-agent workflow using nothing but plain English. We didn't write any complex orchestration code or set up some big framework. We just talked to it. And remember, this technology is still in beta. Just imagine what this is going to look like in a year or two. And that's the real paradigm shift, right? We are moving away from giving AI these tiny little tasks, like write this function. And we're starting to give it massive, high-level goals, like analyze the security of this system. We're moving from prompt engineering to what feels more like systems engineering, but with natural language. So the question I'll leave you with is this: what big, complex problem are you going to solve with your first AI team?